and welcome. My name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We are brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and filmed live every Sunday night here at the world-famous Irish pub in Atlantic City.
And I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. Thanks for being with us. Hard to believe next weekend at this time, it's Labor Day weekend, and the summer is over. It's been a strange summer. It's been a busy hurricane season, and that's one of our topics tonight as we welcome back for his, I believe, fourth or fifth visit, 4 or 5 beers ago.
Yeah, about 5 beers.
5 beers. David Spatz, Longtime media news director, longtime broadcaster, entertainment reporter in Atlantic City, and what I call hurricane aficionado.
Oh, yes, I love watching hurricanes. I don't like riding through them or being affected by them, but I like watching from a distance and hope the damage isn't too bad and there's little loss of life. But then again, lately, right now, we've got 3 systems to look at.
Right, and we've already had Isaias this year. We've had tornadoes in South Jersey, and the peak of the season is September. We're coming up on that. I think we're okay through Labor Day, but who knows what September and October will have in store. So we're going to talk about hurricane season. Coastal storms, flooding, preparation. Any questions for David, for Palma, myself, please feel free to fire away. Comments, criticisms, critiques, all welcome as well. So appreciate you guys being here on this last Sunday in August. Wow.
Now, David, you've been involved in media for a long time.
47 years. I'll just come out with the number. 47 years.
I don't think you revealed that last time.
Well,
since you were 6 years old, right?
I was 6 or 7 when I started. Yeah.
And you've done sports and all.
Now I have that. Well, you know what? I did do sports once. I actually covered for the press when I started. I started my career at the Press of Atlantic City, and spent 22 years there as a staff writer and columnist. And in my first year there, I was assigned to our Cape May County bureau, and on Thanksgiving Day, the sports desk was running short of reporters because they tried to cover every Thanksgiving Day rivalry. And they asked me, do you know anything about football? I said, yes. And they said, okay, you're covering this game. And then they told me, and right now, I know it was Lower Township Regional High School, and I forget who they played. But I covered it, and it went okay.
And you've covered news stories. Entertainment's your specialty.
Yeah, and entertainment. I started entertainment with resorts. When resorts opened, I started covering entertainment first for the press, and then in television and radio. But that was when resorts opened in 1978. So that's my specialty. But I like to think I can, turn a camera on, turn a microphone on. I can talk about whatever it is that's going on behind me.
And you've lived through lots of storms in South Jersey, and since you've been news director, we've had derechos, we've had nor'easters, we've had several hurricanes and post-tropical storms, and so on and so forth. And this year going to be a busy one. And
Well, we're already up to the letter M. People think Laura, and they go, oh, well, what was it? Oh, there was Marco too, but Marco, everybody forgot about because it really didn't do a whole lot of damage. And I think Laura was the troublemaker. But now we have the potential for the M storm, which will be the N storm, which will be Nana.
Nana. Yeah, does that name spark fear? Like, watch out, Nana's coming.
It sounds like...
when I looked at the list of names and I saw that Nana was on it, I remember both of my Nanas, and I wouldn't want to cross either one of them, but neither one of them was a hurricane.
Now, do you have a Nana in your family?
I don't.
You don't?
Nonna.
Nonna. Okay.
Well, that's the Italian. That's the Italian way of saying that.
Yeah, I don't know. But, where do they? We could talk about this. Where do they come up with the names for hurricanes?
Well, there's 6 lists, and this is a common question. 6 lists in the Atlantic. So this year's list will be used again in 2026. So this Nana, if Nana's not a storm that hurts and kills people and does damage and destruction, is retired. Like Isaias will probably be retired. Laura will probably be retired. So when a name is retired, they take the name Laura, they retire it. It will never be used again, and they pick another girl name that begins with L, and they pop it on the list. How they pick it, there's a group of meteorologists from the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, and they pick names of English, French, and Spanish origin, because those are the languages spoken by people affected by hurricanes. That's where Isaias comes from. We talked about it in detail in your radio show,
right.
but it's a Spanish/Argentinian name. We have French names like Edouard, Spanish names like Pablo, English names like David is
Right.
one retired. Palma is not one that's on the list, Palma. What you would need to happen is you would need this year's Peace Storm, Paulette, to be retired, and someone at the WMO suggest Palma to get on the list.
Okay. Are we allowed to recommend? Like, can we send
No,
recommendations?
I don't think so. I don't even know who's on the board of the WMO. Now, you though, are you the type of person, like, you can ask a Sandy in South Jersey, is it good to have a storm named after you, or do people associate Sandy, does it have a negative connotation now because it destroyed people's homes and livelihoods? And like some people say, I want my name on the list. Others don't because it ruins the name.
I think I'm used to it. I mean, I could never find my name on anything at like souvenir shops and all that, so I'm fine.
All right. What about there have been several Hurricane Dans, haven't there?
There's a Danny in the Atlantic. There's a Daniel in the Pacific. Remember,
Remember
different names for different oceans as well. So, there are no names that begin with Q, U, X, Y, Z. So those names, those letters will never have names associated with it. And we talked about this with Jim Eberwine when he was on our first restart back in early August, since the pandemic begun. And we talked about if we run out of names, if we get all the way down to the W storm, this year, is it?
I forgot. Oh, geez.
It's Renee, then Sally, then Ted, I think, then Vicky, and then Wilfred, maybe? It might be Wilfred. If we get through W, Wilfred, and we run out of names, then we use Greek letters. Alpha, beta, delta, gamma, epsilon. How good are you with your Greek alphabet, Palma?
If we get to Wilfred,
You
can we
named the
shorten it to
star
Buzz?
That's Winifred.
Well, do you have a most memorable storm that really sparked your interest
Wasn't
in
it-
following weather?
Wasn't it a hurricane that kind of got you interested in
It
weather?
was Gloria, which
Okay.
you lived through down here.
I covered
I covered it down
I
here.
covered
September
Gloria.
27th, 1985.
But like Dan, it was a hurricane. In 1960, Hurricane Donna, that got me, interested in the whole process. I mean, weather was weather. I knew a little bit about it because I used to fish a lot and go out and with my dad on the boat and everything. And I took a year of meteorology in college as an elective, but not at Dan's level. I didn't get a degree. I had to fill it one more class and that was available. But Donna was the hurricane because there are some who say that Donna passed through South Jersey, made landfall here. I think we discovered it was a little further up the coast.
Yeah, Donna made landfall, I think, up in New England, or it was further up the coast
Right.
storm. It is retired, so there'll never be another Donna. Back in 1960, there was a flurry of hurricanes in the 50s to around 60. One after the other. New England, New York, New Jersey. I mean, there was a lot of them coming up the coast. Then it got kind of quiet, and then Gloria happened, and same thing. So hurricanes sparked your interest in weather. Now, one of the things we were talking about before the show, one of the things David and I text each other about all the time, one of the common themes on Tidal Flooding Talk is be prepared. Be prepared year round. Have your kit, know your evacuation route, prepare your property because storms happen year round, and we should be prepared for them. Hurricanes are never going to be a surprise. We know they're coming. And David knows more than anyone because there's a site he uses on the National Hurricane Center.
The same site that you use.
Yes, and anyone can use. So tell us a little bit about this site, which is free, which is very useful to the weather aficionado because it gives you kind of a sneak preview of what's coming.
And it's user friendly. It's not a difficult site to navigate around. And then when you go to it, and I don't remember
It's
this.
nhc.noaa.gov.
Yes.
Yes.
NHC, National Hurricane Center, NHC.NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, but they shorten it because that'd be too long
Yes.
to write
Yep.
in a web browser. But yeah, NHC.NOAA.gov. And that'll take you to the National Hurricane Center website, and the homepage has a map, and because we're here in this South 12. We're not all here. You're watching on the internet. You're watching in Hawaii, where you have your own hurricane problems. But if you just look at the site, it'll show you what's brewing, and it'll give you a percentage. I mean, if there's like a yellow X, there's 10-20% chance of that. It's not even a depression yet. It's a disturbance, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's not even a low pressure
It's a tropical
system, right?
wave. Yes.
It's a wave. Yeah. But
so what different color X's are there?
X is is low impact. Orange is let's keep an eye on this, and red is this is gonna. Red doesn't mean it's a storm yet. It just means it's going to.
It's the stage before.
It's the stage before a storm. It's not even a tropical depression, but it will become one.
And it's a 5-day outlook.
Right.
So, I mean, remember, the order is tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane. But this kind of gives you a sneak preview before the depression or storm forms. And that way, if you're traveling, not that many people are traveling in this time, but it gives you an idea that, okay, off the East Coast is a red X later this week. I may want to, keep vigilant tuned to long-form media, to the favorite website, to your favorite meteorologist or TV station, because there's something brewing. When the Atlantic Basin is free of X's, yellow, orange, and red, we're in a down period. And I think for the next 6 weeks, very seldom are we going to be free of X's. And that's why we talked about it last week with our OEM, Bill McCord from Summers Point. This is the time to prepare now when it's quiet, or if you live on the 20th floor, where you don't have to worry about it necessarily in Atlantic City like David does. But this is the time to prepare now when things are quiet and when a very busy September and October. Laura made landfall, major hurricane, southwest Louisiana, and it's not going to be the last one. There's going to be additional storms this year to worry about.
There's that one that I was looking at, and I think you had mentioned it too. You had commented on it too. I think is the get this into the 5. Yeah, there it is. Is the one down near the Windward Islands, and it's kind of taking aim right now at like Belize
or the Yucatan,
but we've still got a lot of time.
Yes, and when they're that low, normally they're a Gulf or a Central American concern. When they go north of Puerto Rico, then they become an East Coast concern. Right now, no East Coast concerns. Those are the ones we want to watch out for because, again, September is the peak and usually the prime time that some of the big East Coast hurricanes come up the East Coast. September is one of the best months of the year in South Jersey, weather-wise, as long as the tropics behave.
Yeah, and we've seen these years before where September will be a very active month, or for some reason it's not active. And I think one of the reasons could be what you had written about a few weeks ago about the sandstorms in the African desert,
which have quieted down now.
Yeah.
So just like I said, busy September is expected. Prepare now, and you hope it's quiet. That's
and the good thing about the sandstorms is they keep formation of these kind of tropical systems. They tend to knock them down.
Yes, it's dry air, and hurricanes don't like dry air. So the drier air, the more sand from Africa that blows off the continent, the better it is for us.
Now, when does hurricane season end? And when do you think is like the latest we could anticipate a possible hurricane?
Well, I'll ask you, David. When do you think in general the latest if we could get a hurricane is?
Well, I mean, we saw one. We didn't make landfall here, but we saw one actually form in January a few years ago, which was
way out in the Atlantic.
Yeah,
you're right.
It was way out in the Atlantic. I mean, it was like, huh?
Hurricane season runs June 1st to November 30th. If before 2012, I would say October 15th. would be the latest we have to worry. Sandy happened on October 29th. So really, I mean, you could get something in November, but I think, 90% of our storms are going to be August 15th to October 15th.
Yeah, my
Right?
date,
That's when most of our storms are going to be.
the date in my head has always been November 1st. I always thought if we can get past October, and then the water temperature's coming down, and you're down by October, you're down into the upper 50s to mid 50s, and that's not good for a hurricane, because that takes away the fuel that
Correct.
the hurricane needs.
And the difference with hurricanes is, since this is tidal flooding talk, well, let's bring flooding into this. Hurricanes are going to bring normally one big high tide, one big storm surge ashore. And that's usually it, because by the time they get up here, they're moving fast. So you are going to have a big storm surge, worst case scenario from a hurricane, but normally only one high tide. All right, nor'easters move slower, aren't as impressive with their storm surge, but you're going to have 4 or 5 high tides that slowly build each other up. So those are the difference. Hurricanes are wham bam. The one high tide will never be beaten by a nor'easter, or not usually. Nor'easters are more gradual, but can wear on you for 4 or 5 high tides. Nor'easter season, want to take a gander at that one?
Nor'easter season, I'm thinking, let's say, the beginning of normal person's winter, which would be December 21st, I think.
Right.
Until maybe early mid-March.
And that's the peak of the season. So
Okay.
most nor'easters are early December through mid to late March. We've seen nor'easters as early as October and as late as Mother's Day. And notice the seasons overlap. So you can get hurricanes all the way to Halloween. You can get nor'easters before Halloween. So that's why we always preach 12 months preparedness. That's what you want. You always want to be ready, no matter what time of the year.
Well, like the March storm of 62, March 6, 7, 1962, was a nor'easter, very, very powerful nor'easter. But other than the fact that it didn't have a center of circulation, it had all the characteristics of a hurricane.
Right.
I mean,
And some will say that's the worst storm that ever hit South Jersey. Where, some people will say, that was the worst storm. And it wasn't a hurricane.
No.
Didn't have a name. Ash Wednesday storm.
Right.
The 5 high storm, because it was 5 high tides.
And around here, we've gotten to refer to it as something simple, March 62.
Yep. And before the naming, that's how we name storms.
Right.
By when they occurred. Great Hurricane number 38. The
Atlantic City got
Atlantic City, the Great Hurricane, 44. Yep.
Hurricane of 44.
Yep.
Now, is that something that makes New Jersey a little bit unique, that we experienced coastal flooding and storms like that 12 months, out of the year?
I'll let the meteorologist take care of that.
I think it makes the northeast coast of the United States unique, because you don't get nor'easters in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, they could start in the Gulf, but they're not that strong. They move up the East Coast. So really, from North Carolina to New England, you have the dual threat of hurricanes and coastal storms. Florida, you don't really get major coastal storms, and same thing in the Gulf of Mexico. But North Carolina, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, all of New York, New England, you have the year-round threat of hurricanes and nor'easters.
You mentioned the Northeast, and that got me thinking about different regions. We have the Northeast, and then we have the Mid-Atlantic. People have asked me all the time, where is Atlantic City? Is Atlantic City part of the Northeast, or is it part of the Mid-Atlantic? I say Mid-Atlantic.
Palma, what do you think?
I really don't refer to it as either. I just say Atlantic City.
Atlantic
People
City.
usually, I've said, I'm from South Jersey and then narrow it down to Atlantic City, but
And
not the opposite way of.
Yep. And generally what I found is, New England is very defined. It's
Right.
6 states. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. The Mid-Atlantic, I have found, can be divided into 2 areas, which is like the upper Mid-Atlantic, which is New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Sometimes Delaware and Maryland are lumped up into that. And the lower Mid-Atlantic, which is sometimes Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina. And then once you go to South Carolina, you're in the southeast. I mean, people define it differently, just like they do North Central, if you believe in Central, and South Jersey.
Right.
People define them differently.
Well,
South Jersey to me was always south of exit 63 on the Parkway. That's what I would do. Tom's River, some say. The Raritan Bridge, some say. Some just say, there's that sign, I love it, on the bridge at Cape May, where it says South Jersey, it's just Cape May City, and then North Jersey, everything else.
Right.
So everyone has a different definition.
That's the, I think, exit 0
Yes.
down there.
Yes.
Yep. We're pretty creative. They come up with some,
They
some
do.
creative things.
If
down
you
there.
are watching on Facebook Live, you can always add comments or questions. I do see we do have quite a bit of comments here. Paula Sabati, hey Dan and Palma. Don Mason, hi. Kristen Kaiser, hello. Stephanie Turner wants to know if this is the Irish pub, and Kristen said it looks like we're in a different room. This is the Irish pub, but we had to rearrange to get some social distancing.
And I'd like to take this
tables.
opportunity to thank the Irish Pub and Palma. That's a Guinness, and I've never had it before.
It's your first
I'm not
Guinness.
I'm not a big beer drinker. And I told Dan, I think the only time I really have a beer is when I come and do Tidal Talk. So I didn't know what to choose tonight. And Palma said, "Let me got Guinness."
I just thought you looked
Well,
like you would drink.
there you go. It's not bad.
And we are at the Irish Pub every Sunday, 7 o'clock. Next weekend, we're going to throw you for a loop. Saturday, it's going to be at 7 o'clock, but with Tom Lemaine, who will be our guest, a retired meteorologist. And
They'll take you to 7 o'clock Sunday.
yeah, sometimes he can talk. Yeah, he's such a great guy to talk to, and no one more. I mean, he's floated the hurricanes before, so he'll be our guest next Saturday at 7 o'clock. But we are at the Irish Pub. They are open. It's 11:30 a.m. Is it now 2 a.m.?
2 a.m.
So 11:30 a.m. just before noon through 2 a.m. Normally, pre-pandemic, it's 24/7, and I'm sure it will be that after pandemic. They have the wonderful patio, beautiful patio day today, pretty good patio day tomorrow. Last couple of days, not so much, with all the rain we've had and storms. Yeah, they are a sponsor, and we're glad to have them. And of course, the New Jersey Coastal Coalition always, brings you a Tidal Flooding Talk, and appreciate their support as well.
Yeah, I don't think that by the way, just getting back to hurricanes, the remnants of Laura, we had one really, really huge tropical downpour that I remember late Friday afternoon. But I don't remember really, that hard rain, for
And it
too long.
seemed short-lived.
It was.
It was, yeah.
It ultimately,
Which is
when a system makes landfall in Louisiana or Texas, it has to go through Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, go over the mountains, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. By the time it gets here, normally it's not that strong. The remnant systems that we get a lot of are the ones that make landfall just in the thin strip of Florida, or make landfall in the Carolinas. They go over less land and flat land, and they're still pretty strong. Systems that make landfall in the Gulf are not that strong normally by the time they get here. And we had more rain from the cold front the past couple of days than we did from Laura. So Isaias, that made landfall just to our south in North Carolina. Yeah, it was North Carolina, came up the I-95 corridor, was very flat, and obviously had a lot of punch left to it. 75-mile-an-hour winds, tornadoes, so the East Coast systems are much bigger concerns for us than Gulf Coast systems.
And I have a couple more questions here. I don't know. Okay, so the prediction for this hurricane season. I mean, I know that's probably a detailed response, but
Well, it's ultimately an average season is 12 storms. That's 12. 6 of them become hurricanes. We are already at 13 storms
13,
actually.
13
We're already at 13, and we're not even halfway through hurricane season yet. So I think they could be up to 24. So technically, we'll run out of names. There's 21 names, so we may be Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, whatever.
I'm sorry, that just won't do it for me. I can't report on Hurricane Alpha. I need Hurricane Allen or Hurricane Alicia or something like that. But
Alpha, Beta, Delta, yeah. And actually, here's an interesting tidbit. Someone asked when Jim Everwine brought it up a month ago, what happens if they retire a Greek letter? So let's say Hurricane Alpha is really, really bad. Do we never use Alpha again if we run out of names? No, apparently we do, but we retire Alpha 2020. So it will be the year an alpha, and then alpha will be a hurricane again if there's a 22nd storm in one season. So now what? Now we only have the 6 lists, and we use them again and again and again. The list used to be all girls' names because way back in the day, meteorologist was a field dominated by men. Now it's equal men and women, which is great, but men named the hurricanes after their wives and girlfriends. I think it was meant to be a compliment, not saying their wife is a storm, a storm, but it was just named after
So it
females.
wasn't their ex-wives.
No, it was, it was supposed to be an honor, I think. So that's why all the hurricanes back in the 50s and 60, Donna, Carol, Edna, Hazel, Diane, were all girls' names. And in 1978 or 9, we started alternating. So it goes boy, girl, and one of those first years, David was a storm, 79, and it was retired right away. So again, never another Hurricane David.
It was a bad one.
It was a very bad one. It was in Florida, I believe, or in the Gulf. It was a Gulf, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a long time ago. Well, they started naming storms, what, in 53, I think? It was
That sounds about right.
Early 50s.
Because in 44,
Right.
it wasn't. It was the Great Atlantic Hurricane of September of 44, which Pinky Kravitz always used to talk about, because he survived that one
Yes,
in
he
Atlantic
did.
City and has stories to tell about that one. And that's why we started naming them, because what's easier to say, Tom or the Great Atlantic Hurricane of September of 1944? So we thought, all right, let's just name it Tom then, for instance. But as we're learning this year, Alpha 2020 or Isaias, people don't know how to pronounce the names. Maybe it's just easier to go the Great Atlantic Hurricane of September of 44.
I'm willing to bet you that those people who sat down and came up with those names had no idea how difficult the name Isaias would be to pronounce. I mean, most people had no idea how to pronounce it. They kept calling it Isaiah. And I accidentally slipped a couple times on the air. And it looked like Isaiah.
I said it 4 different ways on air over the course of the week, and I've heard national media outlets say it about 10 different ways. So, but we also had a run on I names. There's been more I letters retired than any other name, so we ran out of I names as far as, the more common ones. Beautiful name, but it's not something that appeared every day, so it did have to take a little while to get used to it.
Plus, they have to be countries, names have to be used in what, France, Spain, and England?
Yes, because those are the languages
Right.
spoken around the Atlantic. Latin
But
America.
3 countries that never get hurricanes.
Yes, correct.
I remember once, when you and I were covering a storm, there was one that did like a hook in the ocean and came in near Scotland.
Portugal or Spain,
Yeah,
and also
and
England, yes.
right,
Correct.
And there was the one near Portugal and Spain, yes.
Now, last time you were on the show, I believe you were saying that you started Curtain Call, right? That's what.
That was the name of one of my entertainment shows, yeah.
Well, what are you doing now besides tracking hurricanes and weather?
That's about it. There's no entertainment. Entertainment is at a standstill for now, unless you go to some places that have, like Harris, for instance. Harris the other night did an outdoor cover band. They had a cover band that paid tribute to the Bee Gees.
Okay.
And they performed in the parking lot of the Waterfront Conference Center. They had it set up so that if you bought, you could only buy, I think, 2 tickets. It was a car for 2 people. And you got a parking spot, and then you got 2 seats. And there was plenty of social distancing. And I was told that they sold it out. So I think people are desperate for entertainment. I know I'm ready to get back to covering it.
And for entertainment, what better way to listen to you? Let people know how they can listen to you, how you can be heard, where they can hear you every week.
Monday through Friday from noon to 2 p.m. on News Talk 1400 WOND.
And that's a great station, and I'm a little biased because I do weather for Longport Media radio stations. But as far as storm preparedness, and when there is tidal flooding, when there are hurricanes, nor'easters, they keep you well informed. Your calls are welcome. The news team keeps you well informed, and it's a great resource when the weather turns bad.
And we've also got Dan, at the ready, even if he's up in in the foothills of the Poconos. That cell phone gets us in touch with him, and we did it the other day with
Yep, we did.
with the Hurricane.
Yeah. And I'll be chatting with you tomorrow as well.
That's right.
So again, Tidal Flooding Talk every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Irish Pub. Irish Pub open 11:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day. Beautiful patio, great food, great drinks, great people in the back. Not 2 a.m.
Weekends, 2 a.m.
Weekends, 2 a.m.
Okay.
Rest of the week is midnight. Gotcha. All right.
And David, we gotta give you something here.
Besides a
from
Guinness.
The New Jersey Coalition and the Irish
Ooh.
Pub gives you a long sleeve tee this
It was
time.
green too. How about
Which
that?
is a
Look at
sign
this.
that fall is coming. You got the
Yeah.
long sleeve shirt coming out.
We've got to see it on the sleeve. Jesus,
Oh,
Irish
yeah.
Pub on the
Very
sleeve.
nice.
So that will be your fifth piece of Irish Pub
I will
attire.
I will wear it.
Just don't wear it in front of the weather green screen.
No,
or
no,
you'll
no.
have
right.
problems.
Could you imagine that?
Next week, again, our guest, we will be with you on Saturday night of Labor Day weekend, wrapping up a strange summer unofficially with Tom LeMaine. We'll see if there is anything brewing in the Atlantic. Again, he's a no more knowledgeable guy. Well, I mean, we have Jim Everwine, we have Joe Martucci, and we have Tom LeMaine, three great meteorologists who are regular guests.
And this
They'll be
guy.
with us next 7 o'clock as
Thank
well.
you.
New Jersey Coastal Coalition and the Irish Pub get together to sponsor Tidal Flooding Talk. So I appreciate everything they do. See you back here next Saturday night. Have a good night.
Good night.
See y'all.